right. Welcome to the 2007
Best Year of Gaming
Awards in Vegas. Yeah!
Howdy folks and welcome. I hope this finds you well. Today we'll be talking about 2007 and why it might be one of the best, if not the best years in gaming releases. Checking the demographics of my YouTube viewers, I think that most of us remember, at least a little bit, 2007. A simpler time.
Look at the folks, they got their glasses that say 2007. It is almost time. Their cameras are out.
Maybe you bought Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows waiting outside for the midnight release. Or you might have caught Kid Power on CBS. Yes, this was a real show.
When we first started planning for dinner, I realized that a lot of us haven't done anything like this before.
This is soap, not butter! As Martin Luther King Jr. said, I have a dream!
Whatever you were doing that year, I hope you were playing some video games because, oh boy, they were good. Look at this list. You got Modern Warfare, the real one. When it came out, it wasn't utter garbage. It actually revolutionized the first-person genre, especially on consoles. They cared about an actual story, and the multiplayer was awesome. I also remember asking someone in my middle school to mod my Xbox 360 controller so I could shoot the G3 in rapid fire. That was $35 well spent back then, at least I think. You have Bioshock, the first game that really made me think, thank God I'm not there. Wow, this presentation and the way they depict their world is so amazing and engrossing. Rapture is vibrant yet dark. It's a perfect dystopian backdrop to a lot of really big philosophical questions, most of which I did not know how to answer or what they were back then, but replaying Bioshock now, wow. I'm really happy that they got this game out. And with interesting mechanics for the time, plus some great cutscenes and storytelling, the descent into humanity's hubris is a classic. Speaking about classics, Mass Effect came out in 07. Now I'm really feeling old.
We face extinction. A rogue soldier leads an unstoppable force across the galaxy. And only you stand in his way.
I remember Mass Effect so well because of its fantastic characters and art design. I loved Garrus. I did love Shepard, even though he had the emotional capacity of a barnyard door.
I'm activating the nuke!
I'm sorry, Ash. I had to make a choice.
The places you would travel to and how you traveled to them in Mass Effect were always a spectacle and will live on in my memory. There are other games like God of War 2 that I never played because I didn't have a PS2, but I remember fondly watching X play on G4 and their review. There was just something so brutal about the game, yet so amazing that it was set during this historic, well, I guess historic, and it was set in the myths of the Greek gods, which I loved reading as a kid. Video games could sort of take thoughts and ideas just like a novel and really utilize them well in certain settings. Just talking about these three games now, it is amazing what they were able to do 17 years ago. By God, that's Halo 3 music. Seriously, what the hell? Halo 3 came out 17 years ago? I remember when there were launch parties for this game. I really wish we could go back to something like that. Now, I'm a big fan of digital distribution. It makes my job a lot easier. However, there are some things coming up that really make me worried about it, especially how Steam libraries are going to work and also pulling digital content. Regardless, Halo 3 was one of the last real events that I remember thinking, oh wow, the Microsoft is actually going to pull out all the stops for this. Look at all these people. Look at how happy and excited they are. I don't think anyone gets like this when we buy a game off Steam anymore. Halo 3 was just a fantastic game all around, from its visuals to the sound to finally ending the Master Chief story. Right, guys?
Or anyone finds us. Years even. I miss you.
Wake me when you need me.
Whether it was the campaign co-op or the multiplayer, which was the first one that I really got into, Halo 3 is probably one of my top 10 games of all time. Another game that really resonated with me was the Orange Box, not only because it was one of the best deals you could get for physical discs, but it opened up my eyes to different games that I wasn't necessarily going to interact with. Not only did the Orange Box give us Portal, a very highly acclaimed puzzle game, but it also gave us Team Fortress 2, 2 DLCs, and the base game for Half-Life. I mean, if this wasn't enough to satiate your appetite for video games at the time, I don't know what was. I remember Portal being super popular at the time, since there were so many memes about the companion cube or GLaDOS, who was a great villain and made me really think about computer and AI back in 2007. I mean, she has those modules that are all pre-programmed, and I think they are AI directives, right? Anyways, now these are games that I played, but while looking up the stats for 2007, there were some things that surprised me. The biggest seller for that year was not a game that I would have thought. Drum roll, please. It's Wii Sports at 16 million. Now, is this just because the Wii came with Wii Sports? But if it's sales, then they must have bought it. I never had a Wii growing up as a kid, so if someone could explain this to me, I would very much appreciate it. Wii Sports sold around 16 million copies, which is wild to me. I never had access to the Wii, but I did find it hilarious, all those videos about throwing the nunchuck when it wasn't tied to your wrist. I don't know how many TVs got destroyed because of that. But what's not funny is getting ganked out in the Outlands. Yes, Burning Crusade came out in 2007 as well, the first expansion for World of Warcraft. Wow, this is wild to me. I remember battling and questing throughout Hellfire, going to the new city. Not only was it a departure from Azeroth, but going to a new world after Azeroth was already so gigantic for me is one of those explorer feelings that only video games and going out into the world can give you. Oh my god, who at Ubisoft thought, no one will care that he doesn't die from a haystack jump? I loved Assassin's Creed when I was growing up. Another fantastic game. Obviously, all these games have their flaws. Assassin's Creed being repetitive and your enemies going one by one are just some of the stuff I remember. However, there was so much more to it, like the Knights Templar, your Assassin Blade. I remember distinctly after the credits or at the end game when I finished the game, going throughout the lab and trying to discover every secret there was on the terminal. I even thought that you could leave the lab and go out onto New York City streets. Sadly, I never discovered how to do that. Let's not forget our friends in the back, the rhythm instrument games from '07. Yes, Rock Band and Guitar Hero 3 came out in '07, and oh boy, both of those games were awesome. Now, I was a Rock Band kid. I remember playing those really plastic drums that they came with, and the guitar, even though it had the cool solo frets, was really bad quality. So I remember just using the Guitar Hero 3 controller whenever I play guitar, and then I think I bought a third-party system for the drums, at least for Rock Band 2. I know that. These games were so instrumental in letting me listen to music and discovering my own sense of style and genre. So I can't thank enough the people that thought that was a good idea to make those rhythm games, because I definitely would not have listened. I would not listen to one of my favorite bands for the last 17 years, I guess. That's wild to me. Yeah, I've been listening to them for 17 years. I wish music rhythm games came back. I understand why they don't. It's just sad because it was one of those fun times that you could share with your friends, have people come over, have a pizza party, or, you know, get pizza from your local pizzeria. You know, there were some games that I know were critically acclaimed in 2007 that I just never got a chance to play. As I mentioned before, I didn't have access to a Wii, so Super Mario Galaxy was a no-no for me. There was also Crisis that I don't think anyone, even NASA, could run on their computers. And also Uncharted, which I know is loved, but if you ever watched Bricky's video on it, it's a mixed bag. But I know that it spurred so many more games that everyone loved. It's wild to look at 2007 and not go, this was a catalyst for gaming. I'm so surprised by how many mega hits came out this year, not only for standalone games, but games that it created the franchise. I mean, yes, I was just talking about Uncharted 1 being not great, but Nathan Drake, the ambiance of it, everything, people knew they had a hit coming. Think about Call of Duty 4, when Call of Duty 3, a year and a half before that, got pandered by critics and people alike. Call of Duty 4 revolutionized that franchise. I think Call of Duty would be what it is today without that modernized warfare. It is so cool to see the bricklayering that happened, because now video games are so much more popular than they were back then, and we can see that it took so much time to get to where we are now. And where are we now? We're at the point where video games are talked about in the mainstream, where people can talk about them on YouTube like me, and we can share our memories and experiences together, just like a book club, just like any other media. I really don't like the stigma that surrounds video games sometimes, that they are not worth it, or they are for some motor function and not for intellectual thinking. There are so many big ideas and philosophies that games can talk about, and I really enjoy that in games because it is technically you making the choice.
In the end, what separates a man from a slave? Money? Power? No. A man chooses. A slave obeys. Kill! A man chooses!
Is 2007 the best year for video game releases? Even though it might be a generalized title, I don't think there's ever going to be one year that is quote unquote the best for video game releases. 2007 did something that other years with video game releases might not have done. And that is create not only great standalone titles, but also create these franchises, as I was saying, that have lasted decades. If I didn't talk about a game that came out in 2007 that you loved, please let me know. Obviously, I was in middle school, so I didn't play all the games, and you know, a year is a long time when you're a fat little nerd that didn't go out a lot. So that's my middle school experience. But yeah, 2007 was a great year. So we'll see what years we get to next. Thank you so much for watching. Check out my channel if you enjoyed the video. There's something there for everyone. I make sure of it. And as always, See you next time.
It's a twister! It's